Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss about quadrilateral, but we are focusing today on parallelograms. So what is parallelograms? Based by the definition, a parallelogram is a quadrilateral whose opposite sides are parallel, as you can see in the illustration. So, in that illustration, line segment AB is parallel to line segment CD, and line segment BC is parallel to line segment AD. So its symbol is a small figure like this on the screen. So naming a parallelogram. A parallelogram is named using all vertices. You can start from any one vertex, but you must continue in clockwise or counterclockwise direction. So for example, this can be either parallelogram ABCD or parallelogram ADCB. Basic properties of parallelogram. There are 4 basic properties of parallelogram. So these properties have to do with the angles, the sides, and the diagonals. Opposite sides. Theorem. Opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. So when we say congruent, they have the same measure. So that means, as you can see in the illustration, segment AB is congruent to segment CD, and segment BC is congruent to segment AD. So if AB is equal to 7, then blank is equal to 7. What do you think is the answer? So let's go to the theorem. Let's go back to the theorem. Opposite sides of parallelogram are congruent. Now, what is the opposite side of AB? So the opposite side of AB is CD. So the answer for this is CD. Opposite angles. One pair of opposite angles is angle A and angle C. The other pair is angle B and angle D. The opposite angles theorem. Opposite angles of parallelogram are congruent. See, as you can see in the illustration. So complete. If the measure of angle A is equal to 75 degree and the measure of angle B is equal to 105 degree, then the measure of angle C is equal to blank and the measure of angle D is equal to blank. So, if you are going to answer that one, go back to the theorem. Now, what is the opposite angle of angle C? So, the opposite of the opposite of angle C is angle A. So, what is the measure of angle A? So, that is 75 degrees. So, the answer for this is 75 degree. Now, what is the opposite angle? The opposite angle of angle D. So the opposite angle of angle D is angle B, that is 105 degree. Next. Again, based on the theorem, opposite angles of parallelogram are congruent. Consecutive angles. Each angle is consecutive to 2 other angles. So angle A is consecutive with angle B and angle D. Okay. So consecutive angles in parallelogram. Theorem. Consecutive angles in parallelogram are supplementary. So when we say supplementary, the measure of the two angles are equal to 180 degree. So therefore, the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle P is equal to 180 degree. And the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle D is equal to 180 degree. Based on the theorem, consecutive angles in parallelogram are supplementary. So example, if we have the measure of angle C is equal to 46, then the measure of angle B is equal to, now first thing to do is to look the two angles. Are the two angles are consecutive angles? So if yes, then you can use the theorem. So the angle C and angle B in the illustration are consecutive angle, then they are supplementary. So meaning, the measure of angle C plus the measure of angle B is equal to 180 degree. So, if you are going to answer that one, 180 degree minus the measure of angle C is equal to 46 degree. So, that is 134 degree. Because if you are going to add 46 plus 134, that is equal to 180 degree. Diagonals. Diagonals are segments that join non-consecutive vertices. So, for example, in this diagram, the only two diagonals are segment AC and segment BD. Again, we have segment AC and segment BD. Diagonal property. When the diagonals of a parallelogram intersect, they meet at the midpoint of each diagonal. So, P is the midpoint of AC, line segment AC, and line segment BD in the illustration, as you can see. So, therefore, they bisect each other. So, we can say that segment AP is congruent to segment PC, and segment BP is congruent to segment PD. Okay? But the diagonals are not congruent. Take note, the two diagonals of the parallelogram are not congruent. Understood? Next, diagonal property theorem. The diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. Okay? Now, let's have the summary. So the summary for parallelograms, by definition, opposite sides are parallel. Other properties theorem, we have opposite sides are congruent. Opposite angles are congruent. Consecutive angles are supplementary. The diagonals bisect each other. So I have here an example. So you are going to answer that one. And your answer, just send me personal message on my Facebook and answer that one. Okay? Another, yeah, please. I hope you learned something from this video. Please stay safe at home and God bless.